Hi, I'm Viviana Russell. I'm the Professional Development and Communications Manager for Mom-Mentum. Tonight we hosted our very first Return to Work workshop here in New York City. Lynn Lease was gracious enough to allow us to use this space. Vice President and Project Manager Laura Bush, who is also here tonight, allowed us to use this wonderful space. Laura is the Vice President of Lynn Lease, which is a construction management company. She is a woman that is on top in a non-traditional field for women. We also had here Pat Chambers Daly, who is a vice president at NEW, and NEW stands for Non-Traditional Employment for Women. Tonight we had a variety of women that are here that are looking to transition back into the workforce with confidence, whether they're looking to transfer into a new career or if they're coming back to work after being out of work for a long period of time. We were very excited. We had a great turnout tonight. We had wonderful presenters that were here tonight, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more to encourage women to get back into the workforce.
Sure. We're at the Mom-Mentum Return to Work Conference. It's been a great evening. We met so many great women. My goal is always to help people be the best that they can be. I help them, I coach them so that they can get their careers on track. I love working with women who are transitioning either into or out of a career, and I love doing what I do. So join Mom-Mentum. It's a great organization, and really great. Thanks for helping all these women to get back to work. Appreciate it.
And what's the name of the organization?
AIM Resource Group is my company. Nice seeing you all.
Contact with you?
Sure, 718-217-1074, or go to my website, aimresourcegroup.com.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Sure. So my name is Mallory Trachtenberg. I'm with the Women's Bureau office in New York City, and I'm here talking about ways to promote equal opportunities for women to advance their careers while also trying to have a work and family life.
Mm-hmm. And so we had a workshop here this afternoon. What was some of the feedback that you heard today?
I think a lot of the workshops were very helpful, in particular regarding networking and setting up skills and interests that people have. Different ways to think about that when you're going through the job search is very helpful. I wish I'd had some of these resources when I was doing it very recently for myself. And I think there's just so much momentum here that can really be used to go forward for everyone who is here tonight.
And if someone needs to get in contact with the Women's Bureau, how would they contact the Women's Bureau?
Sure. So you can look us up online. Our website is www.dol.gov/WB. You can also email us. My email is trachtenberg.mallory@dol.gov.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, tonight I was talking a little bit to the group about building our confidence for returning to work, as well as how we can use our skills and interests to figure out what we want to target when we return to work, and that'll make our job search a little bit easier, but also what we really want to do in this next chapter of our life.
That was a very, very interesting exercise. Many people don't think about what they enjoy doing and how it relates to skills that they can use in professional arena. So what was some of the feedback that you heard here tonight?
The feedback from the participants? Well, I think some of the things people really struggle with in general is coming up with thinking about, or allowing themselves to think about what is it that I want to do at this point, instead of, this is what I should do because I have these skills. And so I think some of the people were struggling with coming up with their interests, and which is perfectly normal, and feeling confident and what skills they do have, and thinking about their skills they've developed as a mother, as they've been raising their kids. That a lot of people discount those skills, but those are really important skills as well. So
if someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, my website is womenworklife.com, and my email is emily@womenworklife.com, and those are probably the easiest ways.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you.
So without any further ado, I'd like to bring Laura up. Thank you so much for allowing us to use your space. Laura is the project manager, for Lynn Lease, and she can tell you a little bit more about what Lynn Lease does.
Good evening, ladies. My name's Laura Bush, as I was introduced earlier, and I'm actually a Senior Project Manager Vice President with Lend-Lease. Lend-Lease is a construction management and property development company. I specifically manage high-rise construction in Manhattan, and I've done that for the past 15 years. I have a construction management degree. I'm also mommy to 2 kids, 6 and a 3-year-old girls, who are more sassy than I am, so that's got its own challenge. So you know, it's a pleasure to host an event like this tonight in our office here. You know, Lend-Lease is a very strong supporter of women, both in the construction industry and beyond, and you know, I'm a huge advocate for that, and so is the president of our company here, Ralph Esposito. So he was very gracious in offering this space for this event this evening. So welcome, thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you.
So Mom-Mentum was formerly known as the National Association of Mother Centers, and just last year we went through a transition, we rebranded, and along with that rebranding, we changed our culture, and a lot of things changed for Mom-Mentum. And one of the great things that changed, that we transitioned to, is a new executive director. Allison LaFolita is a visionary. She is a person that wears many, many hats. And we are so proud and so happy to have her heading up Mom-Mentum now. If you've been with Mom-Mentum, if you know anything about our organization, if you've known us for a long time, some of you do, we've gone through a lot of transition, and we are moving into the 22nd century, I would say, not even the 21st, into the 22nd century, and Allison is at the forefront of that. So I'd like to bring up Allison LaFolita.
So good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm just so appreciative of your efforts to come and meet with us and listen to our amazing presenters. I'm not going to take up too much time. I think Viviana did a good job at covering what we do, but Mom-Mentum is a 40-year-old organization, and we basically provide support to women and mothers through personal development, professional development, and public policy education. This Return to Work program and this particular workshop is our first launch into our Return to Work program, and you're our first guest, so thank you. And we do hope to expand this program where we become the clearinghouse for our members to go back to work and get all the support that they need from A to Z to get back to work. I will be here all night. Our Assistant Executive Director will be here. We have Viviana here, and our Director of Development is back there, Tracy Keynes. Our staff members are here to answer any questions you have. We've given you tons of material. I hope that you all join us on November 6th for our Women's Leadership Conference, and enjoy the evening. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce Kate Fineski, our Assistant Executive Director. She wanted to give you a little bit more information before we start the program. Kate?
I've tripped over that twice already, so if I do it on the way out, I mean, apparently old habits die really hard. I actually am just here. I want to talk a little bit more about Mom-Mentum and about what a membership means. Obviously, our organization has been around for 40 years now. Becoming a member of Mom-Mentum, though, is more than just supporting a 40-year-old nonprofit organization that supports moms. By becoming a Mom-Mentum member, you get some support and some benefits that will help you, too. This new Return to Work program that we're kicking off right now is one of them. We also have an advocacy analyst in Washington, D.C., who helps to educate our mothers on the public policies that impact mothers and parents and caregivers. Additionally, we have an e-news that comes out monthly that gives looks and glimpses and sneak peeks into articles and things that impact mothers personally, professionally, and through public policy. And on top of that, we have an advocacy e-news that comes out on a bi-weekly basis to give mothers the latest news on the public policies that are going to help and impact you to get back into the workforce, to become a better parent, to feel more supported right now. So that along with that, you'll see up here on the board here is our member dashboard. So if you become a member of Mom-Mentum, there's a members only area of the community, and you can see as a Mom-Mentum member you get discounts to our events with some of the partners. We have return to work resources. And our newest thing, and I just wanted to highlight this and show this, is we have a background in building mothers' relationships through our discussion groups. We believe that by supporting mothers and making sure that mothers' confidence grows and that mothers feel supported and that they have connections, that we're building more authentic parents, we're building more confident parents, and in turn that is coming back to the children later on. What we've noticed though is a lot of these discussion groups, mothers' needs are changing these days. 40 years ago when we started up, mothers were primarily at home. Now, mothers are juggling everything from working to families to caring for an aging parent and so much more. So we've tried to look at new ways to help support mothers, and the newest thing that we did was we came up with a member community. This is a way for moms, our members, to connect online with other mothers in a non-judgmental environment that is safe, is facilitated by our other members who have facilitated in-person discussions for a really long time, making sure that the community feels safe. So just like Facebook, when you're on Facebook and you're looking at putting something out there, sometimes there's that fear of that negativity or that judgment to go out there. This is a resource and a great way to connect with other moms that are also in the same spot as you. This is our community. You're immediately met with this idea so that you know that when you enter the community that it is a safe place. You understand the rules that are on there. Just like Facebook, it looks very, very similar. We've got discussions. There are different groups that you can belong to. This particular area was just launched 2 weeks ago. Our goal is to build groups where mothers can network based on where their needs are, where they can have honest conversations with other mothers, whether it be around personal issues, professional issues, or even public policies that have impacted them. So this is our newest initiative to support mothers, and this all comes with a Mom-Mentum membership. So I just wanted to share that with you. And now I'm going to try not to trip over the television right there. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Kate. As part of our Mom-Mentum member community, one of the things that we're going to be launching soon is a return to work area as well. So those that are interested particularly in returning to the workforce, we will have information for you there. We'll have job postings there, and you'll be able to network within the Mom-Mentum membership community with regards to return to work. So tonight we have three very wonderful and very professional presenters. Our first presenter is Mallory Trachtenberg. She is from the Women's Bureau from the U.S. Department of Labor. She will be presenting tonight on women in the work environment with a look at job trends and statistics on where women are today. She will include a look at federal government resources and opportunities. Mallory is a program analyst for the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau Region 2. Mallory has a master's in social work from the University of Pennsylvania, supporting positive health outcomes among women and children experiencing homelessness in West Philadelphia through a particular with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia's Homeless Health Initiative. She's worked to promote human trafficking victim identification and provide human trafficking related training through her work as a trafficking program specialist at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. She also participated in U.S. government's emergency response to assist Haiti orphans following the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, and has worked as an intake operations specialist for undocumented and unaccompanied children through the Office of Refugee Settlements Division of Children's Services. She joins the Women's Bureau to provide support to initiatives meant to improve opportunities for women to engage meaningfully with the working world while maintaining a positive work-life balance. Mallory.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to juggle this and my talking points at the same time. Sorry if that was too loud then. All right, so yes, as Viviana said, my name is Mallory Trachtenberg. Thank you, Allison and Viviana, for inviting us to join you tonight. We're really excited to be here. As was discussed, we're a little bit more from the policy and statistics side of things, so I'm hoping this isn't too dry for you, but I'm basically going to be covering some trends in the workforce today, and also looking a little bit at New York trends for women and children, or for women with children who are returning to work. So just to talk a little bit about the Women's Bureau, we are a bureau within the U.S. Department of Labor, so most of our office is based in Washington, D.C. We were formed in 1920, which is the same year that women were granted the right to vote. We are the only federal agency that focuses solely on the economic security of women in the workforce as well as their families. And we primarily work on research, policy, and advocacy. So some of the work that we do is advance programs and policies that support women in the workforce. We also educate women about their rights to fair treatment in the workforce and promote good quality, higher paying jobs for women. Several of our focus areas include equal pay, accommodations for pregnancy and nursing women, helping older women workers return to work, and we also promote finding jobs in the higher paying fields such as STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Additionally, one of our new areas that we're trying to raise awareness about is apprenticeships, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. So we do most of our work by collaborating with groups like Mom-Mentum, and also partner with other advocacy organizations, educational groups, institutions, local and state governments. And we primarily just try to raise awareness about issues relating to women. We promote economic security for women and their families through breaking down barriers to accessing and staying in the workforce. So just to talk about some recent trends, you've probably seen many recent newspaper articles. New York Times, Washington Post, I think Mike.com 2 days ago has been talking about trying to have it all. And so women trying to have children, trying to stay in the workforce, trying to return to the workforce after having children. And that's really something that we're trying to promote access to, is helping people understand what that looks like and what that can look like for trying to return after having kids. In order to try to have it all, it's helpful to consider the current landscape, especially for those of you who might be returning to work after an extended period of absence from the workforce. So just so you're aware, women, as you probably know, are more likely than men to need to take time off to care for their children, provide elder care. There's also providing support and services for their partners, which not everyone considers. In 1963, women only made up about 38% of the workforce, but currently we make up about 57% of the workforce, and not everyone knows that we make up more of the workforce than men. Specifically, about 70% of working women are also mothers who have kids under the age of 18. Working mothers are the primary or sole breadwinner for about 40% of households across the nation. We also outnumber men in terms of bachelor's and graduate degrees. However, we're still less likely to hold managerial jobs, and we continue to be steered into lower paying jobs when we're starting to look for employment. As a result, we're greatly underrepresented in science and technology fields. And these are jobs that pay higher wages compared to jobs that have female-dominated careers. As you're also probably aware, our salaries contribute directly to school, the health of our families, education, and everyday needs. However, about 21% of all working women work in the lowest paid occupations, which is generally in the services industry, and only 42% of all working women work in managerial and professional sectors. So despite progress in gender equity over the last several decades and seeing more women join the workforce, there still exists an earning gap. You've probably heard about wage gap, pay gap. I'm going to talk about that as the wage gap here. And this wage gap is even greater for minority women. Currently, it's about 79 cents on the dollar. You might have seen different numbers hovering around 77, 79, 78. For Latin women, and I think for African American women, it's about 64. So it really varies greatly. And it's important to consider that when you're looking at how that affects families, especially when you look back at 40% of families having women as the primary breadwinner. That really impacts your ability to provide for your kids. Let's see. So even when we compare women to men with the same experience, education, and industry, there continues to be that wage gap, and we're really just seeing it across all sectors, except for the STEM fields as much. So that's why we want to promote women getting into science, technology, engineering, and math, because there's much less of a wage gap there. So talking a little bit about the work-life balance, as much as we're seeing men seek a sustainable work-life balance as well, in addition to women, because it's not just women who are trying to do this, there are fathers who are trying to have more of an active role in their children's lives. We are still primarily responsible for domestic roles, and so that includes childcare and elder care, as I mentioned earlier. But having such responsibilities often takes us out of the work environment, and when we go in, we often are seen as having less room for advancement. We also tend to choose part-time work more often than men, which also means fewer or no benefits. And this also includes a lack of supports for joining the work environment that allows us to take time off or have paid leave. Over time, this also affects your retirement savings and ultimately has less stability for you and your family. So just some things to consider going forward. For women specifically in New York, we're gaining on men in terms of the wage gap. It's a great time to explore opportunities. There still is a wage gap, but it has been shrinking a little bit. In both New York State and the rest of the nation, women are increasingly employed in managerial and professional jobs. Specifically, the number of women employed in managerial occupations has increased by about 11% since 2007, the start of the recession. And for women employed in professional occupations, that's going to be legal, medical, that's your doctors, nurses, lawyers, people in those professional fields. We've seen that increase in New York State at about 13%. Nationwide, it's about 11%. So there is a lot of momentum for people joining these fields and staying in them. However, in New York State, women are slightly more employed in part-time work than full-time work. That's been a trend that hasn't really shrunk way too much. It's really about 1%, but we are still seeing women choose to accept part-time work over full-time, which again can be problematic when you're looking at benefits and long-term stability. So given the wage gap that exists, we'd like you to consider jobs in the professional sectors that offer higher paying jobs. The female-dominated work jobs that include jobs like social work, again, I'm a social worker background, education and customer service, those are all jobs that really do still see that wage gap, and it's getting worse. So think about how many times people say, call the IT guy, how's your doctor, how's he doing? I mean, we want to change that conversation long term and not have those assumptions be that men are in all of those fields. Jobs in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics typically see less of an equal pay gap, and there's about 17 million people that currently work in STEM jobs. That's about 13% of jobs across the country. However, of that, there's only about 24% of those that are held by women, and those jobs actually earn about 33% more than jobs that are not in the science, technology, engineering, math fields. And it's helpful to kind of consider what STEM means outside of the engineering degree that you may or may not have, but just look more closely into the different skills, technicians, all different kinds of access to these fields can be without having a specific degree if you start looking more deeply. And just so you're aware, the average STEM salary from last year was $79,640, which is about 1.7 times the average non-STEM salary. So I'm just going to conclude by providing some resources. So government jobs are one option for exploring occupations that include paid leave, workplace flexibility, and telework options. Specifically in the federal government, there's a new initiative to add more STEM jobs. There's about 300,000 federal employees that are working in STEM fields. And these positions include IT specialists, health technicians, medical records technicians, patent examiners, program coordinators, and public affairs positions within STEM-related fields. So that's why I'm saying make sure to consider, even if you don't have that degree, you can apply some of those skills, some of that program coordination, training experience within these fields, and still try to see a little bit of a higher salary. Specifically, the Department of Energy also has a Women in STEM mentoring program, which is helpful to take advantage of. You can search for government jobs specifically at usajobs.gov. A quick search through the site for just wide jobs, not just STEM fields, includes attorneys, policy analysts. You also have carpentry, outreach. It runs the gamut. There's oceanography. You can really find a lot of positions at USA Jobs. And that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about my own experience as well. I started in the federal government in DC in about I think it was 2008. And when I joined, I had a lot of people that I was looking up to who were starting to raise a family, starting to plan to have a family. Some people were having their second or third child and trying to come back into work after having that. And from my perspective, I got to see how they were juggling those challenges, coming to work tired, not sure what to do with those gaps in their resumes. But for me and for my office there, I got to see how they took advantage of the telework options, the flexibility, alternative work schedules, and how they made it work for themselves. And my impression when I left was that they were able to do this long term and they were able to come back. So I left to go get my graduate degree. I left, I guess, a year and a half ago to finish getting my master's in social work. And so I was out of the job market for about a year. And when I started looking again this summer, I was wondering, what do I want to do? As is mentioned in my bio, I've done a lot of more crisis-related work, working on the Haiti earthquake, working with human trafficking victims, refugees. But I didn't really see that as an option for being able to have a family long term, being able to work 24 hours a day, all of that kind of work. And I was looking at a lot of nonprofits up here. I'm new to the New York area, so I wasn't really sure what the landscape looked like for a lot of the nonprofits. But I kept going back to USA Jobs because I knew about that structure within the federal government that makes it possible to stay in that work setting and have a family, which I got to see my coworkers do. So that's how I ended up at Department of Labor. I was looking for different jobs there. Very recently was looking for a job. Very recently started this job. That's why I still have my talking points. And I really came back to this because it is a sustainable way for me to look forward and see that I might be able to have a family and also work and do some meaningful work in my life. That is something that's really important to me. I know it is for lots of people. That's why you're all here. And I know you can't plan for everything, but at least I know that I have the potential to try to balance this instead of going to a high stress job and have to leave as soon as I get pregnant or have kids. So that's my story. I also wanted to cover one last area, apprenticeships. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with apprenticeships. I wasn't too familiar with them myself until recently. They are paid on-the-job training opportunities. They often provide benefits. And so if you're looking at transferring into one of those STEM fields, you can actually get training there. It's not just an unpaid internship. And the current administration has a big focus on building up apprenticeship opportunities. President Obama is helping to advocate doubling apprenticeship opportunities. So you can go to the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship website, and you can search by geographic area. So I looked at New York City specifically. There is Long Island. There's a lot of different areas where it shows the apprenticeable jobs. And I wanted to just give you a quick example of what I was finding. These positions often start with a salary in their mid 50Ks, 50,000s. They have benefits. And some of the positions included public relations, video marketing, events and promotions, advertising and sales, project management, and branch management. So for like local banks, for example. So they'll provide you with that training there. Even if you're nervous about not having skills in a particular area, it's worth checking out just to see if anything jumps out at you, and maybe that you live near it. It's worth seeing. Some of the companies are also pretty big. So I saw Reuters, JP Morgan Chase, Mount Sinai Medical Center, Sony Pictures. It really runs the gamut. It's also helpful to keep in mind that primarily men are taking advantage of these apprenticeship opportunities. There's only about 7% of women who are taking those. And it's really helpful to just keep that in mind. Again, I'd never heard of these before. Some people might have, but it's an interesting way of learning how to switch careers without having to step away from your job or step away from your job search to go get some more skills. For me, I went to graduate school. But if there was a field that has really jumped out at me, maybe I could have done an apprenticeship instead. Just some more general advice. Take advantage of the training and development opportunities that might be offered at your local community colleges. Often they're low cost. And continue, well, what you're doing here, reaching out to different organizations, especially organizations that promote jobs and family support systems. A lot of our work at the Women's Bureau is talking to different organizations more so than individual women, letting organizations know, you know, this organization over here has offered these benefits to women, and look at their lower rates of absenteeism, higher employee retention. It's really beneficial for your work site. So look at those companies that are having those conversations. On the national scale, you'll see, you know, news regarding Netflix coming out with that year of paid leave. I mean, you're starting to see more companies talk about this. It's getting more frequent, and just keep an eye on those articles. It is helpful to keep that in mind. There's a few handouts that I have. The first one is mynextmove.org. If you can just pass this around. This is a screenshot of a website that's a helpful portal for just putting in your own interests and starting to see what your skills might be that you can add there. So you can search by interests, skills, requirements, so your educational background. And it also directs you to some of the other sites that I have here. So this is mynextmove.org, which links to myskillsmyfuture.org, which is another job portal site. And 1tonline.org is the third site that this also links to. So that's why I wanted to give you this screenshot. It provides instruction in both Spanish and English, and has veteran-specific resources as well as green jobs if you want to look for like a specific niche. And I also have some other resources here, just some handouts so you can see kind of the demographics of working mothers in the United States. Again, you may have experienced this personally, but seeing some of these numbers might help you feel a little bit less, like your situation is unique and alone and that you need to be afraid, because there are so many women out there who are struggling with these very same issues. So just seeing some of these other trends is helpful. This is a 50-year snapshot of what's been happening in the employment sector. So especially for women who might have been out for more like 20 years, it's helpful to see what's really going on right now. And the last one is first-time mothers at work. And I actually do have, I do have one more that's more of a, okay. This is, this is not an infographic. This is more a resource to use for women who are looking at equal pay and pay discrimination. Let's say you get into a new field and you're starting to wonder what's going on with your counterparts. Who do you talk to when you're starting to feel like you may have been experiencing pay discrimination? This last handout provides some resources for that. Additionally, you can always reach out to us. Our website is www.dol.gov/Women's Bureau, WB. Sure. So our website is www.dol.gov/WB. And again, we're more of a referral agency, so we'll point you in the right direction. Yeah, just WB for Women's Bureau. Sorry, I think I said it wrong first. So we really want to advocate for women not only finding jobs, but finding good paying jobs. One more time, www.dol.gov/WB. B, yes, for Women's Bureau. Yeah. So again, yeah, so we will likely, if you look at our website, we'll likely provide you access to different resources. Again, we're more of a policy agency. I think the other speakers tonight are going to have some real concrete tips on what to do as you start your job search, but just wanted to kind of lay the foundation on what we're looking at currently, and I hope you're able to take advantage of the resources here, because it's a pretty exciting time to be looking for work. Yep. My name is Mallory Trachtenberg, and I do have my boss's cards, if anybody would like her card. I don't have cards yet. So, but if you'd like my email address specifically, I can give you that afterwards. I have a long name, so it's probably best if I do that after. Yeah, so thank you all for coming tonight. Again, best of luck going forward, and
yes, go ahead.
So I would recommend taking a look at that screenshot, I think the mynextmove.org, and seeing, let's see, I think it was this, yeah, this one. I would suggest taking some time. There's so much information on here. You probably want to take a look at this and maybe set aside at least half an hour to try to sift through, because there's so much information that you can kind of get overwhelmed with seeing what's available. And so if you put in, retired, these are my interests, this is what I want to do, you should be able to find some suggestions of where to look. I think more specifically, the two other speakers tonight might have some more like concrete examples, but I would really just recommend spending a good chunk of time on this website. Yeah, because it's exciting also. I mean, I was telling somebody earlier, I spoke with a lot of people in DC who are having internships in our office, and a lot of people came to ask us for internships and kind of presented it as a negative that they'd spent time out of the workforce and had, raised children. It's not a negative. I think if you really turn it around and look at it as these are the skills I was building, this is what I was doing, if you reframe it, I think that can be really valuable. Again, I participated in hiring down there. I wasn't turned off by the fact that people had gaps in their resumes at all, especially when they could look at it as a positive, or if you've retired and you're coming back. I mean, speak to the strengths that you have and the skills that you have. So that was my own personal experience down there. So, any other questions? Nope. All right, I'm gonna hand it over.
Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mallory. So inside your packets that you have, there's information on Mom-Mentum, our Women's Leadership Conference that's coming up on November 6th. And also there's a membership envelope in there. For those who join Mom-Mentum this evening, it would be half price, and you also enter into a chance to win a ticket to the Women's Leadership Conference. The tickets for the Women's Leadership Conference is valued at $200, so you would enter in for a chance to win that. As Kate mentioned, there are many, many benefits to joining Mom-Mentum. As you see here, the Return to Work program, as well as our support in personal development, professional development, and public policy. I'd also like to thank Diana Coleman from the Urban League, who's here. You have opportunity to speak with her afterwards. The Urban League provides lots of services for those who are looking to return to the workforce, and also training in different areas. They have a training that's coming up very soon, I think next week, and she has information at her table about that. And then also Dress for Success. They weren't able to stay. Joy Gordon, who is the CEO, and Angela Williams were supposed to be here tonight. Joy got called away and Angela got called away to DC at the last moment. So they did drop off some information. And Dress for Success, many people don't know, they're more than an organization that just provides clothing when you're ready to go back to work. They have extensive training programs, as well as job postings and a lot of networking services as well. So if you get an opportunity before you leave, we have some information on the table there about Dress for Success as well. Next we have Emily Simone. So Emily will be discussing building confidence and how your skills and interests can help you determine what your career path might be and how you can pursue the next part of your journey. Emily is a contributor to our blog. Sorry, just give me one second here. She's a career counselor and work-life specialist, speaker and writer who has coached hundreds of women on their career journeys. She's particularly specializes in career change and transition, women and work issues, work-life balance concerns, and flexible work. Emily has worked in higher education career services with a variety of institutions, including SUNY Graduate Center, Columbia University, New York University, and others. She also has a private career counseling practice at Women, Work, and Life. Her educational background includes a master's degree in social work and mental health counseling, as well as additional training in career and life coaching, career assessment tools, and social science research. Emily Simone.
Okay, we just might take a second to get acclimated here to the PowerPoint, and then the clicker works. Okay, can everyone hear me? Well, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited that you all are here. Thank you to all of you here, Viviana, Kate, Allison, so thank you for having me. All right, so I'm really glad Mallory actually brought up a couple things. The apprenticeship, I think that's an amazing opportunity, and oftentimes when people are returning to work, it's really helpful to have some recent experience, even if it's been a long time that you've been out of the workforce, and especially something related. And I actually just wrote a blog post for Mom-Mentum on this whole very topic, so we can show you where the link is, and you can browse their blog and read all the wonderful topics that are on there. But, so the apprenticeship, definitely something to check out, and there's other ways to also get experience. The other resource that Mallory mentioned is the ONET. That is a fantastic resource that the U.S. Department of Labor and others have put together, and we'll actually, I'll refer to that one, and one of the exercises we do you can actually use to then go in there and do the skills part she was talking about. So, okay, so let's get to our slides here. So a lot of times we talk about when we're returning to work that we need to get our resume together, our cover letter together, where are the jobs, you know, what websites should we look at, and we forget to take a couple steps before that. And one of those is preparing ourselves. I like to say preparing mentally for returning to work and getting back into the job search. I know that you all have been out of the workforce for a range. There's quite a range in here. So this will pertain to whether it's just been a few months that you've been out of the workforce or a decade or longer, or a couple decades. So we still need to prepare ourselves. So you probably have experienced a mix of feelings about returning to work. Can somebody shout out some of the feelings you have experienced, or one of them? Okay, good. Oh, good, okay. Very good. Yes?
I don't know what a resume should look like now.
Right. So kind of some confusion. Yeah, the job market has changed a lot. Anything else?
Not being able to relate to coworkers, like they're all going to be 10 years old.
Okay. Okay.
Violating some child.
Good. Okay, right. So just also some confusion and maybe frustration about what's going on out there. Who am I going to be working with? Good. Okay, yeah, so the wide range of feelings, and that's completely normal, from being excited but also really kind of scared and lacking some of that confidence is what happens as a result of all these mixed feelings. You know, what is it that I offer? And a lot of people that I've worked with and that are returning to work will say, you know, I don't feel like I have any marketable skills, which I want to say right now is not the case, and we're going to get there. But we all in this room value every skill that you have. And oftentimes it's a matter of being able to demonstrate and communicate what your skills are to employers. So I want you to feel good about those skills that you've had while you've been out of the workforce from a long time ago, the skills you developed a long time ago or recently, and whenever your latest job or career was, those are still with you. So when you think about the confidence, you really want to build that up. And I don't know if you read, it might have been 6 months to a year ago, there was a really big article in The Atlantic about women in confidence. And it was actually talking about how women tend to not give ourselves as much credit as men do. So if a man was returning to work, and this is generalizing, of course, but he might feel a lot more confident than we would as women. So we might downplay our skills a lot. So I want you to remind yourself that you, even though you might not be feeling as confident, that you do have a lot to offer, you do have a lot of skills, that really value your time at home, whether that's been a short amount of time or a long amount of time. You have continued to develop your skills. They might be different skills, but you're still growing, you're still developing as a person, and those are important. And employers, there is a way to communicate those to employers without saying, this is what I developed in my personal life.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
No, please do.
One thing that in this whole category, that I really tried to find a politically correct way to say is that I chose, when my daughter was in grade school and in middle school, not to have my nanny raise my child. And I don't know if it's because I raised her myself or just because she was born this way, but she is so much different from people. She is the kind of kid that can talk to an adult with ease. She speaks to people face to face. She's not on her phone all the time. And so I feel like I raised somebody that can move into the next generation of the workforce and be confident and not just be like a tech head. And I'm really proud of that. But
You should be.
I know if I'm going to be interviewed by a tech head who's going to be like this, well, he or she's interviewing me, that there could be like a little bit of an offense taken. I don't want that to happen. But I'm really, of all my accomplishments about staying home, that's the number one.
Well, and you certainly could communicate that you're very proud. You made that. I think that's an excellent point. You made that choice. Make it sound like it was planned, even if it wasn't. And be very confident in that, and be excited that you're proud of that. But now at this point in your life, you are ready to return to your career. Yeah, and then you're really...
She doesn't want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
No, obviously she's in high school, so I'm ready.
but you should be really proud of your daughter. And
a non-threatening way of saying it.
Right. And you have to model now confidence for returning to the work and showing her that that I am valuable, I have a lot of valuable skills, and I'm really excited about this next venture in my life.
I would just mention, just from group facilitation and talking and being able to say that in a way, sometimes if you say, not only I made a choice that worked best for our family, because of the needs of my daughter and because of the needs of our family, and I'm very proud of the daughter that I've raised. And that's the time that you took away. And if you kind of leave it at that, as not only your choice, but just what worked for you and your family, where people start to take offenses when it sounds like you made the choice that was the best choice and you wish other people would make it that way. So I think with you, you make it more about this was a choice that we made for our family, and it worked really great, and I'm really proud of that. And now I'm ready to get back into the workforce and get back to me and the things that I know that are important to me.
That's so excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. It's beautiful.
I just want to be able to take it one step further. That's the only thing. I just want to be able to say that raising our own kids a lot of the time is a lot different than having someone else raise your kids, and instilling the values that you have, rather than sometimes somebody who's raised your kids who's not a parent and who didn't choose to have kids. You know what I'm saying? So instilling the values of my own values in my child, I feel like she is now able to enter the workforce as the next generation and be really valuable and really just have like a very strong moral compass. So I know it's like I'm gonna have to work on it, but it's really
again. I think that if you say that this was a choice that worked best for your family, that's really going to be helpful, because if you say it the other way around, depending on the choices that mother made, it makes it feel like a judgment. And that's something that you really want to sway away from, is feeling like you're judging somebody else. Of course.
And it sounds like you're really trying to get at with what you wanted to take it to is the skills that you have behind that your uniqueness that helped you raise your daughter to be who she is today. And perhaps without saying it, you could find another way to communicate that strength.
Right. How can you communicate that? I mean, what can you say just about raising a child that could be considered marketable?
Well, let's get, go ahead.
That's the first thing that spoke to me is what skills would I see in you? And I see mentoring and I see training. And that you have trained and mentored a young lady to now become a really strong candidate in the workforce, and so you have those skills to bring to a company to be able to do that with their employees.
Good, excellent.
Great.
Yeah, we're going to get to a skills exercise, and then you can start to think about what are these skills, especially as a mom or in other capacities that you've developed. So let's go to that. But excellent job, everybody, thinking about what to say, what to do. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, and also keep in mind that even if it's been a really long time, those skills that you've developed along, back in your past job or work or career, those are not completely lost. Those are with you. They may be a little rusty, right? But they're there. And it's kind of like if you think about maybe a sports activity. I come from a family of skiers, and a long time ago, as a child, we used to do a lot of skiing. But then when I went off to college and graduate school and so on and so forth, I pretty much stopped for a good length of time. It wasn't my top priority. It's kind of difficult to get to go skiing. And I think it had been 8 years since I had last gone skiing. I decided to go out and try it. I'm like, am I going to remember? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to have to start from the beginning? And lo and behold, my legs were a little rusty and shaky, but I got out there. And those skills were still with me. So I want you to think of your past career skills like that too. Your brain has those little grooves that in it still, and it's going to be able to tap into that as you practice it again. Okay, so let's move on to, so some of us might be a little worried that we're going to look somewhat like this woman, even if we're not quite, if our kids are grown. And that definitely contributes to some of our lack of confidence. Okay, so this is a great time when you're thinking about this going back into the workforce, this new chapter or something that you've been working on for a while, to really take the time to assess yourself, figure out where you're at and what you want to do. Now, some of you may already know what you want to do. How many feel like they know exactly what they want to do? Okay. All right. And so some of you may be not so sure. And this is also a really important step. Besides preparing yourself mentally, this is really crucial step to know what you want to target. And it doesn't mean that it has to be only one thing or one career field or occupation that you're going to target. But if you're just kind of open to multiple possibilities, that makes it much more difficult to have a targeted job search. And I often feel, as I've worked with people, that it comes out, it seeps out in some way, whether it's, usually it's not intentional, right? But that it becomes more confusing, it becomes more overwhelming. So if you can get it down and figure out what are the areas, the few areas, or what's the one area that I'm really going to focus on. And you can always bring in additional ones if the one area or a couple areas isn't working out. And what this means to really think about and kind of take stock of where you're at is to think of 4 main areas that career experts say contribute to career satisfaction. And those are your career and life values, what's most important to you at this point in your life, because as you all probably know, that what's important has shifted and changed over your life and your career and raising your children. Then what skills do you enjoy using? Not just what skills do you have, but what do you enjoy? That's really important because we don't want to ideally be in a job where we're using skills that either we don't enjoy or we're burned out of using. And you also want to think about which ones do you want to develop. Maybe there's some skills that are interesting and kind of fun, but you haven't used them a whole lot, so we call those development skills. And then your interests. What's most interesting to you at this point in your life? And interests can shift and change as well. In fact, experts say our interests don't really solidify until around age 25, and then they can shift and change, as I'm sure you all have experienced as well. And then your personality traits is the 4th area that contributes to career satisfaction. And this is just where do you gain your energy? How do you interact with people? What kind of environment do you prefer? And then a 5th one is not really one of the 4 main ones, but I always put down your personal situation. At some point, you also want to think about reality and what is best for you and your family and where you're at right now in life. So we're going to take a minute to try out a couple of these exercises to give you a chance to assess yourself, and then we'll also talk about how you can use these results in a couple different ways. So in your folder, there's going to be a list of skills. It's a whole packet. And this first exercise is to identify 5 of your top favorite skills. They should be ones that you enjoy. And you can check off more than 5, but for this particular exercise, we're looking for 5. And after this workshop, there are additional exercises in the packet that you could go back to think about your skills more in depth. But this first one, just go ahead, check off any, but remember you have to enjoy them. So I'll give you all a few minutes to do that. You have to enjoy them.
Yeah. Because advocate, right? I've been advocating for my son, but I don't know if I would like to advocate for somebody else. I'm doing it because I have to.
Right. Okay. Well, if you want, go ahead and check all the skills that you have and then circle the ones that you enjoy. So we have a little differentiation. Good question. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there's a list of mom skills as well. So if you have been out of the workforce, raising your children for a long time, and some of the things that you were talking about, you'll see that on here. Training, educating, teaching. I didn't have mentoring, but right. Policy enforcer, right? This isn't an exhaustive list, but it starts to get you thinking about what are those, what we call transferable skills. What can you use from that can be transferred and that are important to other employers? Did everybody, some people are still working, so I'll give you another minute. This is really helpful for the resource Mallory mentioned, the ONET. You can go in there and once you have this list of skills, you can check off the closest skills. It's like what is it called, Mallory? Skills resource or skills. It's not exercise, but it's you'll see it on the landing page. And it will then check off all the skills that you have and that you enjoy, and it will then tell you what careers utilize those skills. So it's really kind of cool. And the other thing with your skills list, this is going to be a really important list to keep handy. You might even want to laminate it or hang it or frame it or something, because on your resume, you are going to want to be highlighting these skills. When you have those bullet points under each experience, you're going to want to start with action verbs that convey these skills. So if writing is one of your skills, you want to make sure you're highlighting wrote, blah, 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 edited, blah, 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 blah. You also, if you have a summary statement at the top of your resume, which the old objective statement is out these days, what's in is the summary or career profile. Those are an excellent way also to really help the employer zone in on your skills instead of getting hung up on, but you've been out of the workforce or whatever it is. It really helps them zone in on what are your transferable skills. So that part, you're going to want to make sure that your top skills are in that section. You want to have these in your cover letter. You want to have these while you're networking, when you are talking, when you're doing your 15-second pitch or your branding statement. Mindy's going to be talking about networking later. You're going to want to have your top skills in your mind. And then also interviewing. When the interviewer asks you, what makes you unique? Or why should we hire you? Or tell me about a time you did something. You want to have these skills readily accessible so you could just rattle them off. And there's lots of other interview questions that pertain, you're constantly talking about your skills. So again, really important list, and that's why you want to take some time later on to go through the whole thing and really assess what your skills are. Okay, so now the other area we're going to quickly think about are our interests. And as I mentioned, interests can change and shift, and so this is a great time to think about what interests do you have at this point in your life. Now, I don't want you to worry about whether that's interest is going to be feasible as a career. Want you to keep an open mind and just allow yourself to dream. Okay, pretend we're in an ideal world here, and the whole point is to get down anything that's intriguing to you, interesting to you, kind of wonder about it. It can be a career field, it can be an industry, it could be a hobby, it could be a topical area. So there's some questions up here if you're having trouble thinking about what sounds interesting to you right now. And I just want you to jot down at least 5 of your interests or interest areas. There's a bunch of questions later in your handout there that you can go back to and really kind of think through what your interests are. Some people even carry a notebook around with them, or little notes on your smartphone, and just go throughout your week keeping in mind, oh, what's interesting to me? Oh, this newspaper article is really interesting because it's on this topic, so jot that down. Or as you hear about interesting careers or something just pops in your mind, you record it. And that's a nice way too, because sometimes it's hard just to sit down like right now and think on the spot, right? How many of you found, which was more difficult, coming up with the skills or your interests? Your 5. Interests, yeah. everyone seemed a little more puzzled as they were writing. Yeah, it is a little more difficult because we don't really have even a list to refer to, right? And there's so many interests that are possible out there. Okay, so now, does everybody have at least a couple interests down? Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to want you to do a little brainstorming. And this is, again, kind of going outside the box. Take one of your skills and one of your interests, maybe your favorite two, and put them together and think about what could this result in. And I put up an example here because to demonstrate how we can kind of push ourselves to try to think outside of the box. If we put travel and writing together, immediately we probably think of, or at least I think of, oh, writing a travel magazine, writing for a travel magazine, right? But there are other aspects when you really say, okay, I'm going to get a little crazy here. What else, could involve travel? What else could involve writing? And you start thinking about, okay, communications writers, they have to write about marketing, write about products, write about resorts, write about, I have to refer back to this because I can't even remember, cruise line. So you try to think about what else could this mean? Or how else could these two come together? Now, granted, our career knowledge for all of us is limited. Even as a career counselor, I don't know everything out there. So this is just a starting line, and we'll talk about a couple different ways to expand beyond this brainstorming. But go ahead and take a minute to look at that one combination you've selected and try to think of at least a couple things that what kind of careers could result from that skill and that interest. I know that's a little more difficult, yes? Well, maybe not? Okay, good. Well, we have a couple minutes left, so what I'd like you to do is pair up with a person next to you or nearby you, and I just want you to share your combination and see if that person can come up with anything else. And the reason why that's helpful is because we get outside, we get different perspectives, right? And oftentimes somebody else has had different experience or has friends that have done such and such, and that involves that combination, or knows of somebody that did something similar or different. So it really helps, and you could do this with also outside of this workshop with friends, family members, as long as they promise to be a little bit objective and not subjective, right? A little biased. And just tell people, I'm just brainstorming. I don't necessarily know that I'll do any of these things, but your skills and your interests, as well as your values and your personality traits, together they provide important clues as to what are some other possibilities that you'd like to do or that you could do other than what seems, at face value, like the obvious. Because sometimes that's where we discover other opportunities. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to just share your combination and then see if the other person has any other thoughts. Okay, everyone, I hate to interrupt. Hello, everybody. Allison's got the strong voice, the loud voice. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I hope everybody got a chance to share with their partner. And then just remember to go back to further think about your skills and your interests and maybe even what's important to you, your values, as well as personality traits and how all those might fit together and how you might use those in your job search, as well as to target a specific career area or a few career areas, and that'll really help you. So I'm going to hand it over. Maybe I'm not going to hand it over. Should we do questions? Does anybody have any questions? Is there time for that? Yeah? Question? Oh, yes. So I have a handout I'll give to you all later. I do work with women, especially on just career change, career transition, returning to work, work-life balance, which is kind of, we can have it all, ladies. We can have it all. Just a certain realistic all, right? Or the way you define having it all, I think is really important.
Do you use the profile known as DISC, D-I-S-C? I don't even know what it stands for.
The DISC, no, I don't use that.
What is the utility of that?
There are lots of different tools out there that to get at different aspects of your career. So that's why it's good sometimes, I feel, to do more than one, because if you just do one assessment or just look from one angle, then and make your decisions based on that, you could miss other important clues. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for being such a great audience and for participating so well.
Sorry, Emily. Thank you, Emily. Next up, we have Mindy Stern. Mindy will be presenting an abbreviated presentation on how to find your dream job through networking and learn the secrets of successful networkers and building resources for your job search. Mindy is the president of AIM Resource Group, Inc. Mindy is Director of Public Relations and a member of the Executive Board of the International Coach Federation, Long Island Chapter, as well as a member of the Board of Directors for SNAP, Services Now for Adult Persons. In addition to her degree in Human Resources Management, she is certified as a Senior Professional in Human Resources, Associate Certified Coach, Certified Staffing Professional, and Certified DISC Trainer, which she'll give you some more information about. And also, Mindy offers to our members 10% discount on the services that she provides for Mom-Mentum members. Thank you so much, Mindy.
Thank you. Do you want to get my presentation up? Thank you. So while Viviana's doing that, thank you all for having me. And I know we're running a little late. Are you okay to stay? This is not a hard presentation. It's pretty simple. So I was sitting in your seats about a year and a half ago after about 20 years in banking and as Director of Human Resources. I thought I was going to retire from the bank. There was no question in my mind. I had a job I loved. Everyone loved me, and we were going along great. And then all of a sudden, as happens in this world, banks buy other banks, and we were acquired. And all of a sudden, you didn't need 2 human resource directors for one bank. So what was I going to do? I was beside myself and upset and angry and frustrated and annoyed, and why me, and all those things. All the emotions that you're feeling, I went through. And then very quickly I said, you know what? This is a gift. It's a gift. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do something else with my life, because I would have stayed, and by the way, I was very happy in my job. I would have stayed, but I never would have had the experience that I now have, which is forming my own company. And that is not something you all may want to do, but it's an opportunity. And I never would have kicked myself out of that seat to do that. So what I want to talk about today is, how do you get there? Because when I left the bank and I looked at my LinkedIn site, it was pretty bad. I had about 100, maybe 125 connections. How many people are on LinkedIn? Okay, so one of the things that we look at when we look at LinkedIn is how many connections you have. And why do you think that's important, your connections on LinkedIn? Why? It's your network, right? Those are the people you can reach out. And one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn is that on the side, it will tell you how you're connected to somebody, right? Like the 6 degrees of separation, right? If you're familiar with LinkedIn. So I just got a new client, and the new client is not on LinkedIn at all, and she absolutely should be. And I went to try and find her, and she said, oh, I'm on LinkedIn. And I said, good, let's see how far we're connected. She has 3 connections. Okay, she's in midlife career right now and trying to change her career. Who is she going to tap into? And I went to see how far away how far apart we are. We're quite a few degrees separated. And so I realized I need to start building my connections, because all of my connections, because remember, I had spent 20 years in the same company, were all about the bank. Everyone I knew was in the bank. And all of a sudden, I'm not in the bank anymore. These guys are not going to really help me because they're all looking at their own belly buttons, making sure that their job's not going to get lost tomorrow, right? I needed to expand my connections. What would I do? How am I going to do that? I never focused on networking. I didn't do anything that would support my own career. I was only focused on my job, which is great. And again, I loved it. But I started thinking about, who did I know? I had been in the workforce for over 25 years, and I started reconnecting to people. Great way to do that. Reconnecting. People I hadn't spoken to in a long time. I started going through LinkedIn. Hey, Eileen, remember we used to work together a long time ago? Oh, yeah. We started reconnecting. I got up to 500 in 6 months. Over 500, because the magic number on LinkedIn is 500 because it says 500 plus. You want to hit that number as soon as possible. So I want to bring you to the fear of networking. How many people are fearful of networking? I was terrified. I'm a very big introvert, by the way. I didn't want to go out there. So you have a little handout, very, very simple. It's not as elaborate as Emily's, but take this out. It's got two little guys putting their hands together. What prevents you from being a super networker? Take 2 minutes and just circle everything that may prevent you from networking. Just circle everything that looks like it may prevent you from networking. Real quick. Okay, we're going to talk about that. There's all different kinds of networks out there, which I have discovered. Okay, so how many people have 5 or more reasons that they don't really want to network? Okay, 5 or more. And 5 or less? Okay, so those of you who have less, are you guys networking? You are? No, okay. All right, so let's talk about the secrets. We have 10 secrets, and I'm going to open those doors for you so you're going to know what they are. Okay, building personal relationships. The biggest shift that I had to make when I started networking was that it's not about the job. It's not about the connections. It's about building those personal relationships. People always want to help others that they have that connection to. And whether that connection is, hey, we both have kids in the same football league, or we both have kids who go to swimming, or we both were in banking years ago, there's got to be a connection between you. And once you shift your focus, it changes everything about how you perceive networking. It's not about you and the job. It's about the other person and creating that connection and creating those connections. When I started looking at my people that I had worked with a long time ago, I connected with this one woman who lives in Boston, but we used to work together in Atlanta a long time ago. We went through 9/11 together. We were together at a meeting when the towers went down. We were watching it when it happened. We have a very strong connection. Although we haven't spoken in a couple of years, we're completely reconnected now. And we're doing very similar things, which is really interesting. She's in Boston, I'm in New York. And we are at different points in our lives, but we're doing very similar businesses. So we're connecting all the time now. We made a really deep personal connection. And that's what I believe in, building those personal relationships. Does everyone understand that? The difference between just, hey, how you doing, what's your name, and moving on, okay? And looking in someone's eyes and saying, hey, we have something to connect us. Because you can bet that if someone talked to me about a need that they had in Boston, she'd be the first person I'd recommend, right? Because we have that personal connection. Okay, good. Okay, number 2, find your super connectors. Think about people who maybe have connected you in the past, or maybe you got your last job through. You would find that a disproportionate number of your connections are with a much smaller group of people. When you find those super connectors, that's who you want to spend your time with. Because some people are natural connectors. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you should be incorporating connecting others as well, because that's a really important resource. But think about your super connectors. Who do you know in your network of friends or family that is out there, that has a big Rolodex? We don't call it a Rolodex anymore, but that's what it is. I used to have a Rolodex. I really missed it when I threw it out, right? I used to turn it and everyone's name was great. Now it's all on my phone, but there's something about that Rolodex, those are the people that you want to start with. Yes?
You have friends?
I'm talking about friends. You don't know who your friends know? Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to connect to
If you
them.
were to come to me and they'd say, oh, she knows everybody. But that
Okay.
was years ago.
Okay.
That was
So maybe you're...
kids.
So that's okay. Even with kids, we connect with people all the time, right? Those are your people you should begin with, the people that you have personal connections. Who do they know?
Jobs now, so,
But you're going to start because you're going to start talking about things that you have in common. It's first is the personal connection. First is the personal. Okay, super connectors. Reconnect with people you haven't spoken to in a while. This is my friend Eileen. Again, I was able to get up to 500 in under, my goal was 6 months. I did it in probably 3.5 months. But I was dedicated to it. I made sure that every day I was connecting with a couple of people. Not everyone on LinkedIn will respond to you, but the ones who do, that's when you start making those connections. So I think that reconnecting for people who are uncomfortable in a situation of finding new people, start thinking about those people you worked with a long time ago, or that you connected, at some your former life, right? So when people look at you as a resource, you become very valuable in their eyes. You start thinking about how to connect other people to each other. That's huge. And I make a point to do that every single day. When I hear someone and I know what they do, I'm always thinking how I can connect them to someone else. And then you become a valuable resource, and they look as you become the go-to person. Oh, yeah, she knows, like you said that they used to say about you. That can still happen for you. You have to take the time to think, and how can you do that? How can you make a good connection? How? How can you do that? You can't do it if you don't know much about the person, right? You can only do that when you know a lot about the person. And that's what we're talking about, those really deep connections. Does that make sense? Okay. So be a connector. Okay, so as an introvert, it was very, very hard for me to walk into a room of 500 people and try to make connections. So it's very important to prepare in advance. And how do you prepare in advance? What do you think about before you know you're going to a networking event? Business cards are a good way to start. Absolutely. What else? Okay, elevator speech. Everyone know what an elevator speech is? No. Who doesn't know what an elevator speech is? Okay, so the genesis of an elevator speech is, let's assume you're getting into the lobby and it's just you and the one person who has that great job opportunity that you always wished you could have. Dream job. That particular person happens to walk into the elevator with you. But that person is getting off on the 3rd floor. You only have 30 seconds to make an impact. What are you going to say in that 30 seconds that's going to make an impact so that that person says to you, you know what? Instead of going your own way, come and have a cup of coffee with me. I want to talk to you more. Whatever you have said is so compelling that I want to speak to you a little bit more. That's your elevator speech. You use it when you're networking, when someone says to you, tell me about yourself. What do you do? Or when you're interviewing, right? Again, the hardest question in the world is, tell me about yourself. How do you say that? How do you articulate it succinctly enough so that the interviewer is not dreaming or going back to his BlackBerry or whatever he might be doing, right? And making the connections also. So your elevator speech is critical. And some of the things that Emily was talking about, your skills, really important to have in your part of your elevator speech. But it's got to be short. If it's more than 30 seconds, it's too long. It's got to be short. Think of that elevator ride. You don't have a lot of time because he's walking out the door. Okay? So you've got to prepare in advance. So elevator speech is one thing to have in business cards. Those are 2 things I heard. What else can you do to prepare? Sure.
Elevator speech like your job, like your previous job or job description.
Can you do that in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
It's got to be compelling. Okay, so I have a lot of clients and all we work on is the elevator speech. It's a great skill to be able to have a very compelling elevator speech. It's not an easy thing to do, but you work on it. It is maybe a piece of that. Maybe a small piece of what you used to do. It's what you want someone else to remember about you. Go ahead.
So if you were in that situation, how would you get started? Like how would you approach that person? Hey, my name is, and then.
Okay, so it depends on the situation you're in. So let's talk about that. So we're going into, there's lots of ways to connect with people. And we're going to talk about, has anyone been on Meetups? Meetups.com? Okay, so Meetups, great way to find groups of people that have something in common with you. All right, so you could plug in, I love photography. Let's just use that as an example. And I live in zip code, whatever, 12345. When you plug that in, up will come a number of meetups that have a specific area of photography and when they meet. And you can even set it up so that you get push notifications whenever they're going to meet. So let's just say you and I were meeting at a photography meeting because that's what we have in common. What a great opportunity for us because we have something now to talk about. Oh, did you see the sunset yesterday? I took the great shot. Would you like to see it? Now everyone carries their phones. Great opportunity to start a conversation. Because you don't want to start a conversation by coming at some, hey, I really need a job. Do you have anything for me? That's going to you think that's going to turn someone off? You think that's going to, I want to embrace that person. Yeah, it's going to turn them off. So you want to start with something that makes them feel really good. You know, you want to start making some commonality, something that you're going to start building a relationship with. Does that make sense? So when I talk about preparing in advance, if you know you're going to a photography workshop and everyone there is photographers, you might want to start boning up on what your most recent interesting camera that you bought or what you recently took, or maybe you had a show somewhere. Those are things you want to find that are interesting, that might be interesting to other people. If you're interested in cooking or gardening, find other people who have those similar interests. Just because you're interested in photography in a photography club doesn't mean that those people you're meeting might not have job opportunities for you down the road, or their friends might have a job opportunity because you're going to start building those relationships. Does that make sense? So if all else fails, the weather is easy to talk about because there's always something happening in the weather. Stay away from politics for our first initial conversation. The venue. Oh, the food is great here. Oh, the food's no good here. But easy to talk about things like that. Those are things that are easy to talk about and easy to prepare for. You want to be interested in other people and interesting to other people. Okay? If you feel you're not interesting, you can do something about that. I recommended to one of my clients, she said, I have nothing to talk about. I said, learn a language. Learn a new language. And she did. She's learning Spanish. She said, it's great. I love it. Expands your mind. You have things to talk about with people. It's great. Now she's going to take a trip to Mexico. She's going to practice her Spanish. It opens up new horizons for you. If you don't have something that you have that's innately interesting to you or that makes you interesting, find something. Make yourself interesting. Okay. Okay. So I'm a coach, right? I believe in writing down goals. I believe strongly in goals. If you do not write down your goals, you're not going to do them. So you've got to build in time because we're all busy, right? Super busy. And no way was I able to get to 500 contacts in under 3 months by not doing it every day. So you've got to build in the time, whether, and you all know your own schedule. So is it, hey, at lunchtime, I'm going to send out 3 emails? Or is it once a week, I'm going to make sure that I have a phone conversation with someone, I'm going to reconnect with someone? Whatever it is, you need to build in that time and then make a plan. Okay? And it's got to be something that works for you. I'm a morning person. Maybe you're a night person. Maybe, when the kids go to bed, that's the time you want to start reconnecting. Or that's the time you want to go onto LinkedIn and see. Does that make sense? You have to work to build in time. It doesn't happen automatically. Become a joiner. All right, so we talked a little bit about meetups, but there's loads of ways to join things, and you never have to leave your home. When you go onto LinkedIn, there's, thousands of groups you can join, right? What's the value of joining a group on LinkedIn? You may never meet them. What's the value of joining a group? Networking. So how can it help you? Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, my groups, the groups that I'm in, They send me information all the time. I'm learning constantly. And so I belong to a lot of HR groups because that's my interest. And so I'm always learning. You have to keep up on a lot of the regulations. They're always giving me information. I'm always hearing about interesting things that are happening, and that helps me to become more interesting as well, right? And to help me in my business, helps me to connect to people. I'll tell you something else. When I meet someone, let's say in a trade show, and I exchange my business card, I'm going to hand my business card out to everyone. The first thing people typically do is connect to me on LinkedIn. They're checking me out. They're checking, who is Mindy Stern? Who is that person? I don't know. And then you see all of a sudden, I know that they've looked at me because I have that capacity. And then all of a sudden you get an email. Oh, would you like to have lunch tomorrow? Because something about my profile interested them. And maybe it was just the groups that I joined, because you can see right on the bottom of your profile the groups that you're in. So maybe someone wants to connect me for that. But they always go to LinkedIn and then my website. Yeah.
Just reminded me, when I first went onto LinkedIn, somebody from like Philippines or something emailed me or something. I'm like, I don't know if they're real people. How do you know? These people
Okay.
are real?
Rule of thumb on LinkedIn is very different than Facebook. And you're not really supposed to connect to people that you do not know. Okay? So, word of caution, if I am motivating you to go onto LinkedIn and start upping your numbers, there's an option on LinkedIn that says, would you like to upload your whole contact list? The answer is always no. No. And it's very easy. They ask you 100 times. They ask you almost every time I go on, they ask you, don't do it, because you're going to have a lot of people really annoyed at you if you do that. Okay, and I bet you, like me, I bet you have people on your contact list that you probably don't want to connect with. Okay, because I don't clean my contact list all the time. So just ask for people that you know or have met. So anyone that has met anyone here in this room, you think that's a pretty safe person to accept? Yeah, I think that's pretty safe. You can all link to me. I'm fine with that. Okay, but and that is, it's really a compliment to someone. Say, hey, you know what? I met you. I think you have some value. I don't know what yet, but I would like to connect to you because I don't know who you know, and you don't know who I know. Okay? So,
Kate will accept your request too.
okay, so we will accept requests, but become a joiner. Make an effort to join something, whether it's, virtual because you can't get out, or go to a meetup and find something that you can do. Absolutely. Okay, when you actually meet someone face to face, shake hands, make eye contact. It's very important. Very, very important, because you make a connection. Again, it's that human connection. We're people, and we, as human beings, we love that connection. We love that shaking of the hand. When you look at someone's eyes, think about the color of their eyes, because that'll force you to look a little longer and make that connection. And remember that Maya Angelou had a great saying, and it was, people may forget what I say, but they're not going to forget how I feel, how you make me feel. Okay? Those feelings are really, really important. And how you make someone feel is really important. So when you shake hands and make eye contact, you're making that human connection with somebody. So make an effort to do that. Some people are uncomfortable with that, but make an effort. 9. Be interesting and interested. We talked about that before. You want to show interest in that other person, right? Because you're making that personal connection. And show that you're interested. I met someone yesterday for the first time, and he went to pay for lunch. He couldn't find his wallet. So embarrassing. I'm so embarrassed. What should I do? I said, listen, I have my card. No big deal. But I was concerned. The man lost his wallet. That's a terrible thing. You're in New York City. You're losing your wallet. So I reached out to him later in the day, and I said, just want to make sure you're okay. Thank you. It was a great meeting you, blah, blah, blah. Did you find your wallet? Thank you so much. And as a matter of fact, the person we were talking about that we have in common, I've already reached out to him. He said to me, and he's calling you tomorrow. And sure enough, the guy called me today. All right? So I was genuinely concerned about his wallet. Truth.
Did you find it?
Oh, yes. Yes, he did. He did. He had left it in the car. He left it in the car. But you know what? That second follow-up made him think of me again. Okay? And it was completely genuine. I really was concerned about it. I really was. It was genuine. And the last thing is follow-up. I meet a lot of people all the time. Most people are lousy at follow-up. Lousy at follow-up. They take cards. You know, I go to a lot of networking events, and a lot of them, by the way, are in the morning. I go to a lot of networking, and what they do in some of my networking groups is that everyone takes a card and they pass it along. And they never take the time to say hello or shake your hand, but they have a stack of cards, you know, this big. What is the value of that? I don't get that. But anyway, I follow up. I'm a very good follow-upper. Most people are not. So if you do follow up, you're going to stand out. Because, as I said, most people are pretty lazy about that. They'll go to an event and then they think it's going to happen automatically. Trust me, it does not happen automatically. Although we're going to try and be unique and interesting to people, people are busy, right? And not everyone's going to have a great plan like you're going to have, what I'm going to do on day one and how I'm going to start networking, you know, tomorrow. So it's important to follow up. And I'm a big emailer. I don't have a lot of time for a million phone calls, but I will absolutely email. And if I feel someone is a good connection for me, you know, when do you have time for a coffee or you know, something? We'll meet for somewhere. Yes?
How do you know when you're annoying people by trying to reach them too often? Because I know that happens to me. Something totally unrelated.
Okay, so.
Why you know, bond with this person?
Okay, so when.
I had to get in contact with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Went off with there for weeks and just kept pursuing it. And then I get a report back secondhand that I was annoying this person.
Okay.
It wasn't about looking for a job.
All right, so you know you're annoying someone when they don't respond to you. That's a really big hint, really big hint. So I will give someone 2 times. Okay, I assume you're busy, maybe you're not going to get back to me. The second time, if I don't get a response, I'm not going to pursue it any longer because I have so many other people that I want to connect to that want to connect to me, like this guy from yesterday who it's okay. It's okay. We're not going to connect with everyone in this world. It's okay. It's fine. But yeah, I don't pursue after the second time. I don't. You know, frankly, if I had more time, maybe I would, but I don't, and therefore I know I'm not annoying.
But even regarding my son, that's another story. You know, trying to make a connection that way.
Does everyone agree with that? You feel comfortable with the 2-timer, and then after that, it's fine. It's fine with me. I don't take offense at it at all. Yeah. Yes.
No, I hear you, and I think it's about your son. I did an internship
Mm-hmm.
with an interior designer, and now she's interior design pre-college program at FIT, and she needs a recommendation. And I have called this woman so many times. I drove over to her office yesterday. I feel like a stalker.
Stalker.
She actually, her office is right underneath where I get my coffee, so it wasn't really specific for that. But I was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. It's very difficult to be a fit.
Yeah. We had a question in the back. Mm-hmm.
There are people I worked with in my corporate life many years ago who I would generally like to catch up with, but I feel like if you say 10, 20 years have passed, that it might seem odd to them, or are they being used?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little reluctant to
Okay.
reach out to
Absolutely. That's a very honest feeling, and you're right to feel that way. I will tell you that, again, it's about that relationship. So depending on how you left that relationship, it's pretty simple to pick up again, but you've got to be careful about how you frame it. All right? You cannot frame it, hey, I'm looking for work. You cannot start there. You've got to start building the relationship. Hey, I haven't spoken to you in a long time, just wanted to catch up. Stop. Right? Let's catch up and let's talk again, you know, maybe next week. When I got in touch with my friend Eileen up in Boston, we didn't talk about our businesses because at the time I didn't even know I was going to build a business. At the time I had just been laid off, and I just wanted to, my only goal was to build those connections because I knew it was important. It wasn't until much later, and we've been speaking for many, it was probably about 2 months that we went back and forth, how the kids are, all these conversations. We started building that. I asked her, tell me about what you're doing now. I'd love to know what you're doing. And she started telling me. I always ask the question first. I'm always much more interested in hearing what someone else says than what I have to say, because I already know what I have to say. I always want to know what someone else has to say because I learn something every single day from the people I talk to. That's my goal. Must learn something, one thing every day. And if I learn it really early in the morning, it's great. Then I'm free the rest of the day. But I must learn one thing every day. Okay? So it's not too hard, right? Wake up and immediately everything comes on the email. So is it challenging to do it? But you've got to frame it in a delicate enough way that you are really just trying to build that relationship. You are not asking for a thing. And by the way, some people are givers and love to give you information. And you can go have an informational interview with people, and that means I'm not asking you for a job. I just want to know about your business. I just want to know what makes your business run. I want to know what keeps you up at night. That's an informational interview. You can have those. Okay, when you start building those relationships. When you start building those relationships. Any other questions on this? Okay. Okay, so again, I'm very goal-oriented. I happen to like this format for goals. This one is particularly for networking. So start by, maybe you want to say, I want to start making connectors or joining something by next week. I want to increase my network, my LinkedIn network, by 50 within the next month. These are your goals. I'm happy to email this to you because obviously it's much better in a Word document than taking a picture of it, and you don't have to recreate it. It's already created. So I'm happy to email this to you. If you're interested, I'll give you my card, and then you can actually put anything on the top. I've used this format for loads of different things. This one I happen to create for networking, but you can do it for anything. So it's a nice reminder of the things that you promised yourself to do. What questions do you have for me? Any questions?
How do you overcome your introverted nature?
I'm still an introvert. I will always be an introvert.
No, you can't tell.
I know you can't tell. It's interesting because when I did the disc, I've done the disc many times, I always come out on the lower end. But as I have built my own business and I needed to get out there, and I must speak to people all the time. I get tons of jobs for my speaking engagements. And it's always shocking to me. Why? Why are you now coming to me when I knew you like for 4 years before? Oh, because now I understand what you do. You know, now I get it. And now I've made a connection with you. I really would like to work with you. So you never really get over it, but you get better at it. The more you work at something, the better you get it. It's like riding a bike. You know, you practice, and you get a little better at it. I'll never be an expert, but I'm very comfortable in it. I've also trained for many, many, many years, so I'm very comfortable in front of an audience. You know, so maybe that helped also because I was a trainer for many years. Yeah.
What exactly do you do?
Oh, good question. Okay, so I'm going to take some cards. Just take one and pass it around. So I do career coaching. All right, I do leadership development, and I do human resource consulting. I do all those three things. So whether you want to have a leadership development course or you want to talk to someone about how to improve your career, I do one-on-one coaching and help people to improve their lives, improve their courses, improve their knowledge base. And one of the things that I have on my website that I'm very proud of is I have an alliance with MindEdge, which is online learning. And I have a golden ticket for all of you, 15% off, and actually Mom-Mentum has a 10% discount, but until November 15th it's a 15% discount on all online learning. So if you think about something you want to do at home that you can do and make yourself more interesting and gain more skills, get a certification in project management, oh my God, you can do that all online. So go to my website, it's on my card, and take a course while it's still on sale until November 15th. The other thing, human resource consulting. That's for businesses. And unless you own a business, you don't really care that much about it. But I know a lot about human resources. So the other thing, I am beginning a webinar series. If you're interested in hearing more about this, I have a LinkedIn expert coming up the first week. I have someone who's doing branding the second week. If you're interested in joining our webinar series, please take one of these. But I need to know by whatever date I put on there. I forgot.
Unfortunately, I can't make that time slot.
Okay. It will be recorded. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Questions? Other questions? No. Okay, Viviana, thank you.
Thank you, Mendig. Let's give all of our presenters a round of applause. And just before we wrap up, we have Pat Chambers Daly here. She's the Vice President of Development and External Affairs for NEW. And NEW is an organization that helps women in non-traditional employment for women. Pat.
Hi. The reason I'm actually here is I'm supporting Allison and Kate and Viviana, and because I actually have been a part of them. I have to say the Mother Center for probably about 25 years, and so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be here. But the other reason is it's where I'm working now. Non-traditional employment for women. We actually train women in the construction skill trades. We're a pre-apprenticeship program. We give them a very good opportunity to learn about all the different trades within the construction world. It's an 8-week program during the day. It's a 7-week program during the day. It's an 8-week program if you take the night and weekend course. And it really is amazing. A lot of the women who come to us come from homeless shelters, or they're formerly incarcerated. They're working, but they're working for less than minimum wage. And so the one thing we love about what we do is our connections are with the unions, and once they go through our program, we're almost like a direct entry into the union programs. When the unions have to meet their quotas on minority and women in their classes, they come to us because we have we've built these women into a great solid group of people who can come and immediately go into the apprenticeship programs. And as soon as you enter your apprenticeship program, you're making a minimum of $17 an hour, and you're getting full benefits. So it's really getting women into that middle class and building that, and that's just the minimum. Once you've done your apprenticeship program and you become a journeywoman, then you're easily in that $50,000 to $75,000 a year in terms of your income, and again, you're doing full benefits. So it's really a great program to be a part of. And if you do know of women who they think I can do that, we'd be glad to talk to them. So. Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank our presenters for tonight. A huge thank you for all of this. I'm not going to put the title this time. I have it right here on my card. Don't worry about it. Senior Project Manager, Vice President, Project Management and Construction. She's the boss lady. And thank you to my staff that is here as well. We'll also get a picture with the presenters. Yes. We are going to get a group shot with the presenters. And then also the videographer wants to interview the presenters if you have a moment afterwards. So again, thank you all for coming. Inside your folders is a membership envelope. If you like, we encourage you to join Mom-Mentum. If you join today, it's half off of the membership. Normally our annual membership is $50 a year, but today it would only be $25 for the entire year. And we entered into a chance to win a free ticket to our Women's Leadership Conference. Thank you all again so very much for coming.